Sigoli Nadialiwas, Skanagoga, Skanago. I just said, greetings, what is the news? Are you with peace? I am with peace. Congratulations, people. Week 6 of 6 for our Intro to Native Peoples AIS 101 class. Congratulations, people. You've done it. Thank you for all your work along your way. I appreciate your midterms. Thank you for turning in your cover letter. Thank you for turning in your infographic or social media post. This week, turning in your final exam. Looking forward to your 2 to 3 minute video on up to 3 concepts related to the course, either learn from the course or from your own outside research or lived experience. Looking forward to learning about that. Invitation, not an obligation. Sit up nice and tall, string going through your head, taking the deepest breath of love you've had all day. Breathe in some love. Exhale some love. Grateful for you. Hope you take care of yourself physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. Before I let you all get out of here, a couple more resources I want to go over again. We talked about House Concurrent Resolution 331, talked about my clothing company, 1142. The idea is that the Haudenosaunee wants 5 warring nations buried their weapons underneath the great white fir tree of peace, take on peacemaking 1142, or before. We know this because of the solar eclipse that aligns with our oral tradition. This came from this one here, from the 100th Congress, the House Concurrent Resolution 331, the Senate of the United States in 1988, acknowledging the contribution of the Iroquois, also known as the Haudenosaunee Confederacy of Nations, to the development of the United States Constitution. Also, whereas the original framers of the Constitution, including most notably George Washington, Benjamin Franklin, are known to have greatly admired the concepts of the 6 nations of the Iroquois, also known as Haudenosaunee Confederacy. Whereas the confederation of the original 13 colonies into one republic was influenced by the political system developed by the Iroquois Confederacy, also known as the Haudenosaunee, as were many of the democratic principles which were incorporated into the Constitution itself. So for the Haudenosaunee, this notion of we the people, like that phrase, the people, it comes from the Haudenosaunee, how we see ourselves as the people of the Longhouse. This idea of our separation of checks and balances, separation of powers, comes from the Haudenosaunee as well too. The idea of our firekeeper, this is what the president is based off of. Our clan mothers, this is what the Supreme Court is based off of. Our younger brothers and our elder brothers, which are the Haudenosaunee tribes. This is what is comprised of this is based off of what makes the Congress and the Senate of the United States as well too. So again, many of these thoughts, one of the differences is, a key difference I should say, is the Haudenosaunee did everything by consensus and still do, whereas the United States is by 2/3 majority when it gets approval through Congress, Senate, and then if it does not get vetoed by the president as well too. So some differences, but it comes from the Haudenosaunee. That 1142 comes from the Haudenosaunee, and that's what the United States is based off, that Haudenosaunee system of governance. Without the Haudenosaunee, there would be no United States. Let us continue here. A couple more resources. I talked about it. native-land.ca. You just type in the address here, and you can see, for instance, if we typed in CSULB right here, it will take us zooming in here, and it shows you the Tongva Gabrieleno, Wanenyu Achiman, whose lands you're on as well too. You can see if you zoom out some of the surrounding tribal nations as well. And you can put in any address you want as well too from around the world. As Chief Orland Lyons, I'm sorry, it's John Trudell who had said, all of us are indigenous to somewhere, just some of us have forgotten along the way. And that relationship to land, relationship to self, relationship to earth, to spirit, to community and one another. So highly recommend checking out this resource and share it with your friends and colleagues, native-land.ca. Then also check out digitreaties.org. This is where there's 374 ratified treaties visible for the first time. So you can see all the treaties here. You can see the different tribes that make those lists. For instance, I type in like the Oneida, like my relatives' tribes, or whatever it may be. Or if you type in a number of different ones as well too, has all the different tribes you can search for as well too. And it has all the different agreements as well too that has happened over time. And a lot of these as well too is they are written in the original Old English and in cursive as well too. So many of these that have not been scanned or typed into typing. So for any of you as a project, future research, either your tribe or someone else's, you want to be an ally or the lived experience, you can look on here and see, according to the Constitution, Article 6, Clause 2 of the Constitution, these treaties are the supreme law of the land, according to the Constitution, right? So the idea is, be sure to know our rights, know your treaties, and you can look up over 374 federally ratified. I'm told there are over 500 treaties that were not ratified, so they were done completely illegally. They were not going through the proper channels. Oftentimes, these treaties, I'm told, they would be done illegal anyway. Imagine someone like yourself or myself, before if we're not elected to public office and we're said, you know what, why don't you just sign over for the United States here, sign up for another country when you don't have the power to the authority to do that. Also, there are circumstances of outright falsifying documents and just in creating documents that are not actually forging documents, that forging signatures and different things down the line. An example of this is the Carlisle Indian School records, which are also public record for anybody to see as well too. And the idea that from one of my great grandfather in the school records, you can look up online, there are these letters written in perfect cursive in English. And my relatives say, it's weird because my great grandfather and great grandmother, they didn't speak any English. So how would they have signed in perfect English in cursive if they didn't even speak English? So this is an example of a document being forged, and that was said to have happened in treaty making as well, or even giving people alcohol to put them in an agreeable state of mind was also done. Basically anything under the sun that could be done to try to manipulate or steal this land or these treaties. This is how I was told it had happened. So some good resources for you there as we're in week 6. And lastly, with week 6, I'd like to leave you all with this thought as well too. And it's from a graphic novel. And from this graphic novel it's in Moonshot Volume 1. It's an anthology of stories. This one is taken from the Daredevil series specifically. And it's written by this Cherokee artist, David Mack, who he would grow up, he would sit with his uncle, a Cherokee storyteller, and was encouraged to draw the images and ideas that he heard. Inspired by these memories, David created Echo, an indigenous and Latin superhero in the Marvel Comics universe who, like David, grew up learning to communicate with the world through the visual medium. So in this story, Echo's real name is Maya Lopez, and she is deaf. David explains that Maya's unique way of empowering herself in the physical world shows the power of stories to help and heal. Whether through speech, sign, music, art, dance, or gesture, this character proves that stories can be told and perceived in many ways. In this way, Maya demonstrates to the reader that communication is an infinite cycle. So it's just an excerpt from this story here, so I wanted to share it with you. Later on, when I realized there is this thing called sound, I will ask my father all kinds of questions like, what does laughter sound like? What sound does grass make? When I hear that rain makes a sound, I will ask, what sound do the clouds make? Does the sunshine make a noise? What does the rainbow sound like? When I ask him these things, it makes him laugh and cry at the same time. And then I ask what that sounds like. On the way home, I'm retelling the chief stories to my father. Now I begin to understand the ideas behind this storytelling. I tell my father that I will be a storyteller too. He laughs and says that I already am. But I say that I must learn my own language to tell my stories. More than signs, more than sounds, more than words. Pass on my stories through my own medium, like the comic book artist, so that you can understand, even if you don't hear like me. Even if you don't know what sound clouds make, you could feel my stories. It's with that, people. I'll tell you one last time. I say yawanko, kunolukhwa, nakiwah means thank you, I love you. Until next time. Just remember, if nobody loves you, Dr. Reed loves you. Take care of yourself physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. Look forward to seeing you for our last community peacemaking circle on GroupMe. Take care of yourself, everybody. Yawanko, thank you. I love you.